4 years after the release of the Fairy Tail game, Nintendo has revealed that it's getting a sequel this winter. By the way, a few articles, like one from Push Square, announced it will also be available on Steam and PlayStation. Either way, it's a great year to be a fan of Fairy Tail. We're getting an anime adaptation of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, the sequel series to Fairy Tail, and another game that retells the series' final arc. After hearing the announcement, I thought I'd do a video about the original game and my thoughts and predictions for the new one coming out this year. So let's start with the original Fairy Tail game from 2020. When I first heard about the Fairy Tail game, I was excited. I had wanted Fairy Tail to get its own game for years, and I was finally getting my wish. I was also happy to hear that it would be a turn-based RPG instead of a fighting game. I have nothing against fighting games based on anime. Dragon Ball FighterZ is a lot of fun, just to name one example, but I thought it wasn't the best fit for a Fairy Tail game. The anime is about going on adventures and seeing the guild members bond over time. A fighting game isn't exactly the best at showing that. That's why I was happy to hear the game would be an RPG instead, and I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. While I wouldn't say it's one of the best games ever, it was still good. I even wrote 2 articles about it back when I would write about anime and video games instead of making videos about them. By the way, I am thinking of redoing my review of the game as a video, so I won't go into too much detail here about the first game. These are more my key points about what I loved about it. First, it's a faithful retelling for the most part. The game retells mostly everything from fighting Hades on Tenru Island to Fairy Tail reuniting after being disbanded for a year. While I would have preferred its own story, similar to movies like Dragon Cry, I can appreciate its attempt to retell some of the anime's best arcs. The Grand Magic games is still one of my favorites, and it was great getting to revisit it in a game and play through some of my favorite parts from it. As I mentioned earlier, another plus is that it's an RPG. I've been a fan of the genre since I was a kid when I begged my mom to buy me Final Fantasy VII. It's funny to look back on that since everyone talks about how it's one of the best games ever made today. However, I wanted it because I thought the cover looked cool. Again, I was a little kid, so what do you expect? While I wouldn't compare the Fairy Tail game to a Final Fantasy game, it was still fun. Attacks are the same moves you would see in the anime, like Natsu's Dragon Roar, or Lucy summoning Aquarius to attack all the enemies with water while also getting caught in it. It made me laugh the first time I saw that because I didn't expect them to add that, but it gave you the idea the creators did watch the anime and wanted the experience to be as close as possible to the series. The last thing I want to talk about that I loved from the game was the interactions as the characters grew closer the more you used them. Not only did it have the benefit of helping in combat, such as not needing as much magic for moves as they grew closer, but the game also rewarded you by showing them interacting together. It gave you the feeling that while the game was a retelling, it also added to the story, so you were getting something new. I know I'm not going into too much detail about these things, but as I said, I am planning a review for the game. I just wanted to send a message that I love the game and I'm excited that it's getting a sequel. Anyway, I put it off long enough. I should finally talk about the new game we're getting later this year. First, this was a complete surprise to me. I hadn't heard anything about a sequel being made. I'm not saying I didn't want a sequel, it's more that I wasn't expecting it since I didn't see that many talk about the original game. However, it did well enough to deserve a sequel, which I'm happy about. The only significant difference I could see so far in the sequel is that it's gone from a turn-based RPG to an action-based RPG. I like both, but I am excited to see how the developers made a jump from turn-based to real-time. I'm also happy to see that the game will still promote the use of different characters in your team. As the trailer shows, you can link an attack from one character after attacking with another. They also imply that attacks will be different depending on which character you have in your party. While they don't state it in the trailer, I hope this also leads to more interactions between characters like the first game. As I said, part of the fun of using different characters was seeing them interact in the game as they grew closer. Again, it was something I enjoyed, and it added to the series. Yeah, the developers could have decided not to add it, and it still would have been a good game, but those interactions still made me smile as they felt accurate to the characters. If there is an addition I would want, I would like to see more playable characters. For example, in the original, Levy wasn't one of the playable characters immediately available. You had to purchase the DLC if you wanted to play as her. However, Yokino is another character I love, and she's never been available to play. Yet Sting and Rogue were both available in the first game. I'll admit it is more about seeing what fun interactions they would have with certain characters, But I also think having Yokina available would be fun since she is a celestial mage like Lucy. I'm not sure if we'd see her with a star dress for her own spirits, since that hasn't happened in the series yet, but it would still be fun to see how the two would differ from each other if they added her to the roster. Overall, I'm excited for this game. As I said, it's a great year to be a Fairy Tail fan. I was already happy knowing the anime would return, but getting a new game was a surprise I didn't know I wanted. Either way, I'm happy knowing we'll be revisiting the world of Fairy Tail in a video game later this year. Until then, though, let me know your own thoughts about this game and if you'll be picking it up. Also, let me know if you're interested in seeing that review of the original game from 2020. I'm Marco Strange. Stay safe, stay strange.